Now, this morning, I get to talk on the Creative Challenge with Dr. Mario Ajero, who's professor of piano pedagogy in the SFA School of Music. And as I understand it, you were already innovating with teaching some piano online before the pandemic arrived. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, Scott. I've been doing online lessons, or that's been kind of a research interest of mine over the past 10 or 15 years. And the majority of the classes that I teach here at the Stephen F. Austin State University School of Music are group piano classes for music majors whose primary instrument is not piano. And these are instrumentalists such as brass players, percussionists, string players, but also singers as well. But they need to attain certain proficiencies at the piano keyboard in order to make themselves a much more well-rounded musician and marketable music professional when they graduate from SFA. So we have these piano labs where we have 16 digital pianos and we all have headsets on, and we're able to meet twice a week face to face. But these class sizes have grown as the School of Music has grown over the years as well, where we have regularly up to 16 students at a time per section that I and the other group piano instructors teach here at SFA. So what happened was it was more of a solution to some logistics as far as those growing class sizes, because when we would assess them and listen to their performances in class, when you listen to 16 different students play individually, then that eats up the instructional time that I have to the students. So I had to look for a solution. And maybe it was about 10 years ago that I created these closed Facebook groups or private Facebook groups where students, in lieu of performing for me live in class, they could capture that magical musical moment where they got it perfectly in the practice room, as they have so often said that they did, and submit that through these closed Facebook groups, and I would grade that instead here. So it kind of takes a little bit of pressure of off in the moment, performing right at that particular time. And a lot of them gained a lot of confidence after going through this particular process, where the times, let's say in the final exams where they had to do it live for me in person, then it didn't feel, they felt a little bit more confident going into that. And I also try to supplement with those uh, videos that they had submitted through the Facebook group. I tried to reciprocate that by including instructional material that would supplement what I would go over in class, so that they could have a little bit more in-depth look at what were some of the pieces, some of the techniques, and some of the um, uh, ways that we solved certain problems in the piano lab. And I got a lot of good feedback off of that, and students seem to respond really well to that. And without actually even realizing it here, I guess I had kind of created a hybrid model of both a face-to-face class, where, or flipping, what we call flipping the classroom. I don't know if you guys have heard of that terminology before, where a lot of the instructional material happens online, asynchronously here, whenever it is convenient for them. And then when we do meet face to face in the piano lab, then we would discuss, what is it about, like maybe the instructional videos, maybe that they didn't quite get, or if I saw something in the videos that they submitted, what are some things that they could do individually that I could address in the piano lab when I have those face to face interactions. So I guess if you want to call that innovating, I guess that may be one way to put it there. But it seemed to be an effective solution for the logistics of what I was dealing with these larger piano class sizes.
Well, I would call it innovating, certainly. And so now I wonder, since you were already online in a partial way, it was sort of a hybrid class, it sounds like, already, and you were using social media even to facilitate the process of teaching and learning piano. Did that put you ahead of the game when the moment arrived when you had to go to all remote instruction?
I felt that it was an advantage for sure here, and I think not necessarily just personally for me, but I felt the students were a lot more prepared for it, to shift to just uh, 100% online here. I did set up quote unquote office hours, but rarely did students utilize them. What I think a lot of students did was they kind of, when we had to shift all completely online, a lot of students kind of relied upon each other. That's one of the advantages of the group piano environment, is that they're all learning the same thing. You know, traditionally, piano has been a very solitary discipline where you have the master teacher and the student studying one-on-one private lessons here. So, and then you're also oftentimes practicing by yourselves, and it's not as sociable of an instrument discipline as, let's say, the band instruments or the orchestral instruments or the people who sing in choir as well. So a lot of it is they feel a lot really alone in the practice rooms by themselves here. So what I think I noticed when we shifted over to completely online was that they were able to adapt and maybe rely more upon each other's submitted videos that they had shared on our closed Facebook platform, where, oh, that's how so and so plays it, and she plays really great here, and I'm going to try to model my performance off of that. So I found that maybe when they were able to rely upon each other more and to be able to do it at a distance versus being in the piano lab and say, "Hey, can you show me how you finger this particular passage?" They're able to just simply see the video and then, oh, wait a second, let me see how he did that, and they can rewind and have that particular advantage in this online format.
I'm actually having a certain amount of trouble just visualizing how this would work teaching piano online. You're teaching them to strike particular keys at a particular time to make a particular sound. So are they looking at a video of a keyboard and hands on a keyboard? Or are you looking at a video of their face or their fingers? Or what, what is it?
Yeah, sure. No, what I've done is, and a lot of it has evolved over a particular time. I have a YouTube channel where I kind of experimented before I arrived to SFA, where I was still looking for a job, and I wanted to create these videos that I had. I figured, well, this is a really fascinating new media, YouTube, in order to reach a whole new audience that maybe I would not ordinarily have met before. And I thought, well, what can I offer here? Me being someone who just finished his doctorate or was in the process of finishing his doctorate, and what could I offer to this new online community? And then I just started creating some piano lessons online where I would just simply take a video camera and have it shoot over my shoulder. And I would say, you know, this is how you play this particular song. It's a really easy riff from this really popular song that many of you want to play, and it uses this particular chord progression. I would add text and even do some screen sharing of the sheet music on from my computer, and that kind of slowly evolved over time, where I came up with all these found these new tools in which I could do both an overhead shot of my hands at the piano keyboard. I would have a secondary camera where I could look at them face to face, so that they can get some facial expressions and also some nonverbal communication from me. I felt that added a personal touch as well. And I also have a software program that I've used in my piano lab that was originally meant for just in the classroom to project onto a screen behind me, where it would show in real times and light up a virtual keyboard of what I was playing in real time, and even display them on the music staff, the actual music notation, so that they can make those connections of what they were playing or what I was playing with what was on the screen as well.
You know, actually, I'm hearing a little bit of piano music in the background, I think.
Yeah, we shifted over here to my kitchen here. If I hope you guys don't mind, because my daughter is practicing piano in the other room here. She's got her level 9 Royal Conservatory exam coming up this upcoming week here. So we're as usual here in the Ajero household. We're always at the grind here on trying to keep up with our piano skills.
Very cool. I know both of your both of your children are brilliant pianists. So another feather in your cap.
Thanks.
So you were even 10 years ago, you were sort of teaching piano on television in a way. Uh,
Yeah, I guess you could say that there for online. I mean, again, it kind of started maybe, and some of them are a little bit embarrassing, but I keep them up just for posterity's sake. There, back in, I think some of my first teaching videos were on my YouTube channel back in 2006, the first year that I arrived here at SFA. And but Yeah, I've been doing it for a while, and I think I really started incorporating it into my piano class curriculum probably probably around 2008, 2009, or 2010. I can't remember exactly there, but I do recall the Facebook video groups where I felt comfortable with students who had cell phone cameras to upload videos of their performances. It started to getting a little bit more ubiquitous, where they had a good enough technology where I felt comfortable assessing their performances, probably around 2010.
was it a pretty easy transition for the students then when everything suddenly went remote in mid-semester? And did they have the technology that they needed in their homes to make the transition?
Yeah, well, that's probably more of a question for the students there. But at least from my perspective, I thought they handled themselves really well. They took it well in stride. I remember watching your video with Brad Meyer, where the percussionists had to be really creative in just coming up with anything that they could play percussion pieces on. And that was probably the biggest challenge. A lot of them had the cell phones, because that's really ultimately what they needed, was a cell phone with a camera and some kind of high-speed internet access. We didn't really have any live online Zoom classes just because of the difficulties with scheduling, and some people just didn't have the bandwidth at home that they normally do at Stephen F. Austin State University. So, but with the asynchronous, where we could deliver videos that they could download or watch off of the Facebook social group whenever it was convenient for them. Maybe their parents or other family members weren't online, then they could do that. But essentially, all they really needed, as far as technology is concerned, was the ability to record themselves and send that up to Facebook as well. Now, a lot of them weren't particularly adept at compressing those video files in such a way that would be um, uh, uh, easy for them and cut down on the time for them to upload it to even a site such as Facebook, to because oftentimes they would complain about, oh, it's taking like hours and hours to upload here. And we're not even talking about really long videos. We're just talking about maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Sometimes they're even under a minute long, some of these performances that they have. But some of them were kind of shooting them at like the highest 4K setting on their phones and didn't realize it. So we had to kind of coach them through a little bit of compressing the videos, not necessarily setting them at the superest, highest definition, because that's not really necessary in this particular case. Just as long as we could get some really clear audio and video, I was pretty flexible in the way that they presented that to themselves. Now, what they probably had the most difficulty with was that many of them didn't have access to a full 88 key piano or digital piano or an acoustic piano with weighted action like we have in our piano labs and we have in our practice rooms at the music school building. So a lot of them had to either use their parents' out of tune piano, and um, some of them had to use a keyboard with a very limited range, and we just had to be really flexible in what those students could use at that particular time. So I think, considering how quickly all this kind of hit us after spring break, I thought they handled themselves really well, and we had not as many withheld grades as I thought that we really would, given the circumstances.
So, did your students meet the learning goals for the course just as they might have if you'd been seeing them in person at least part of the time? Were they
I
playing piano as well as they would have otherwise?
Yeah, for all of them that that completed the assignments there, I was really satisfied with what I saw here. In fact, many of them, some of the surprising stories were there were these students who were like really quiet and maybe didn't even show much enthusiasm or uh, uh, motivation or drive when we had the regular face-to-face classes there. But then when we had shifted to this, I don't know if it was just because the environment, well, there's nothing else that I can do except for staying at home and practicing music and practicing piano. A lot of I was really surprised in a lot of cases how a lot of them really in many cases even improved over what we traditionally saw before this whole COVID-19 situation hit.
I noticed that you're presenting some material now to other experts in your subdiscipline, your research. Is that related to what happened with the pandemic? Was that already in progress, or what's the relationship of your research to this?
Yeah, the piano pedagogy community, particularly in higher education, is pretty tight knit group here. So I've been really fortunate to have kind of got some recognition in that regards and got a lot of acceptance into various conferences over the years, and also published articles in some of the most well-known piano pedagogy periodicals over the years here. So when this whole went down, when all of this COVID-19 went down, there was this, particularly in social media, amongst either groups or even just their own personal accounts, a lot of people saying, "What do I do in this particular situation?" So a lot of institutions and uh, uh, piano teacher groups kind of mobilized and said, "Hey, let's put some resources together." One particular organization that I'm proud to be affiliated with is the Francis Clark Center for Keyboard Pedagogy, and they run a publication called Piano Magazine. Used to be called Clavier Companion. And what they did was they gathered a whole bunch of teachers in the field and created a whole series of webinars on what to do in the situation of having to shift from traditional piano lessons and piano classes to online instruction. And I was one of the names that was called upon to participate in a couple what they called virtual town halls to share. Some of it was had to do with initially first with the type of equipment and software and hardware that you need in order to have effective online piano lessons and online piano classes as well. But then as more teachers started to adopt the technology over the weeks and the months, then it started to shift onto pedagogical practices as well on what we can do as for to make the experience as good, if not better, for our students who are now socially distant from what we're capable of providing to them.
Well, I think we're always fortunate to have you at SFA, and perhaps never more so than at this unique moment. Is there anything I haven't asked you about this that you think would be interesting to tell us about?
Uh, well, the one thing that I particularly learned from this experience was that, if you give sometimes students, when we were having the face to face interactions, where there was a lot of deadline driven goals that we set for the students in order to achieve what we set out for the semester here. And there was just so much chaos going on, especially in March and April, that we didn't. A lot of students legitimately couldn't keep up with those deadlines that we set forth for them. I kept with my deadlines, and I let the students who could submit on time to do so. But anytime that a student had any problems, they could always come to me, and I tried. I think for us as professors and mentors to these students is to try to be a little bit more empathetic to their to what they can do here. And as long as they can get the material in whenever is convenient for them, there, I'm happy to work with them here. And I think that's something that I might carry over even beyond this, what was quite the unique semester, to say the least.
Well, I know our students appreciate your flexibility and your kindness, as all of us do. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us about this today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure there. Anytime, Scott.
Thanks again.